Hey, this is Seth Parnell, the minister of the Portia Church of Christ, and this is episode 177 of the Midweek Bible Study. Hope that you are doing well. Hope your day has gone pretty good. We always appreciate you stopping by here to join us, for the study. And it's always good to dig deep into the Word of God in order to, build ourselves up, in order to be someone who can walk that narrow path. And I'm really thankful to have people to be able to do that with. Even when we meet in such a virtual presence, such as this, it's always a good thing to do. So I hope that you are doing really well today and been having a pleasant day. Well, as we always do, we want to give you a invitation, to the Portia Church of Christ. If you're in the local area, we hope that you can stop by and see us sometime. We are located at 307 South Jackson Street in Portia, Arkansas. Right now, we are meeting at 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock on Sunday morning, 5 o'clock on Sunday night, and 6 o'clock on Wednesday night. And so if you're in the area, hope you can come and join us sometime. Right now, we were having a class on the book of Acts on Wednesday night, and we're having a class on the book of Esther on Sunday morning. And so if you've ever studied either of those books, they're great books to take a look at. They've got a lot of wisdom, a lot of goodness in them. And so I know that you would enjoy those studies. But if you're in the area, we sure would like to see you. So stop on by. Also, if you have any questions or comments, about what we study, or about past episodes, or if you have any suggestions for the topics of future episodes, then feel free to send those our way as well. We'd love to hear what you have to say and hear your input. It's always good to hear from the people that watch this, and the people who take this in. Also, to kind of give you a roadmap as we're moving into February, as we've already finished off January in 2024, and we're starting the second month. We will next week we will have kind of a review of the Freed Hardeman lectureship. And I'll be up there, for the beginning part of the week, and we'll kind of have a review of what they've studied up there for next week. We might not have an episode the week after that, because I'll be at a preachers conference down at Harding University, and so we may have to skip a week after that. But then those two following Thursdays after that, we will have Cody Bradford from the Benton Church of Christ. He's going to be there to join us, and then Trey Allen is going to be there on the 29th to finish off the month of February. And so we've got a packed month, and I think a good month ahead of us. And so hopefully you can join us for some of these episodes that we have coming up. But tonight we have a special guest with us. We have Will Hester. He is with us, and he is going to be joining us and telling us a little bit about what he has been up to, and some of the things that he's been involved in. I know you're going to enjoy what he has to say, and be able to talk to him tonight. And so, Will, it's good to have you here tonight. And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Glad to be here. I guess I am special. Maybe not the kind of special that you're saying, but that's fine. No, I'm good. I'm doing well. Enjoying the time that we've been having up here in Louisville. We moved in September officially of last year, and so it has been a whirlwind. We have been just trying to make the best of it. Been working with Herald of Truth since September. September 1st is when I came on board. As you can see in the background, that's our logo, and a lot of people remember Herald of Truth. And so when Greg, our president, asked me to come on board, I had to jump on it because of the history of Herald of Truth.
Yeah, I think we met when you were preaching at Osceola, I believe. I think
yes,
in
yes,
the area. But I know you're a good preacher, and I've heard some of your lessons, and so it's good. It's good to have you here.
Well, I appreciate that compliment. Some people might not think the same thing, but hey.
Hey, what have you been studying or teaching on lately?
Well, actually, I've been filling in at a church here in Louisville, and they are in the process of looking for a preacher right now. And so I have been going back through my studies of Daniel and First Corinthians. I had done the First Corinthians series at the beginning of 2023, and it had gone from being like a five, it probably would have been a 10 lesson series if I really
Mhm.
just hammered a couple of chapters together, but it turned into like a 16 lesson series. So I've started that with them, and going back through the book of Daniel and rehashing some of that. I had done that at the beginning of 2022. And at that time, when I was doing that lesson series, that was right around the time that there was so much going on social media as far as people, quote, getting canceled and things of that nature. And now it has spiraled to the point where I don't know if you saw this yesterday, but they had all the major tech guys on Capitol Hill testifying
Mhm.
before a joint committee, and Mark Zuckerberg was called out on on his Meta stuff, and he was called out for canceling people and talking up certain things, and it was very interesting. So going through that book study again, kind of gave me a insight into what's actually going on now that it's gotten worse over the last 2 years. Um, People are at each other's throats a lot more than they were even 2 years ago.
Yeah, and it's a that's a unfortunate side of being so connected as we are today. We're more connected today than we've ever been, and sometimes that's a bad side effect to it. But
Absolutely.
as Christians, we have to rise above that. We have to be someone who is better than the average. But as you said there at the beginning, I do that so often when I'm writing a sermon. I'll get a chapter and I think, well, I'll just do a sermon on this chapter, and
Yep.
then you get about 4 verses in, you got your 3 points, and like
Uh-huh.
it gets a lot bigger than one sermon can handle. And
And
so
I've become more expository in preaching as of late. And so what I end up tending to do is taking a section of verses, and
mhm.
then I will be preaching through those verses, get to my application, and I'm like, oh wait, I've only gotten through like 4 verses.
Yeah.
Whoops. So it's like, oh well, yeah, that's a thing. But
Yeah.
it's been good though. I enjoy what I do, and I enjoy being able to preach. Even if it's just fill-in work, I enjoy being able to keep the machine oiled, as they say, is just trying to make sure that everything still stays up to snuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And that speaks to the power of the Word of God.
Oh
That
yeah,
it has that wisdom and has that goodness to get out of.
absolutely.
But we'd like to welcome some people here. We got Jackie Henry. He is here. I hope that you guys are doing well. We appreciate you being here. And we also got the Dunlaps. Hope that you guys are doing well as well. We always appreciate you stopping by. And so the as we know, a big part of the gospel is evangelism, is getting that message out there. The meaning of the word gospel is good news, and we are to spread the good news to the people that are around it. And there's a lot of different qualities that go into someone who is an evangelist or someone who is spreading that word. And I know you guys are doing a great job over with what you're doing. And so why don't we start out by just telling us a little bit about the Herald of Truth and what you guys are doing over there.
Yeah, so for those who might be listening and who don't actually know about Herald of Truth, our main mission is to evangelize, to equip, encourage, and uh, to just give churches a reason to get off the pew and go into their communities and spread and share the story of Jesus. We've been doing that since 1952 for 71 years and counting. Our number one goal is to just share the story, um, give people hope, and give churches the tools to be able to do this and know that they can do this. It's not trying to reinvent the wheel. It's not trying to go into a community and saying, hey, you've been doing it this way. Well, we have a better way, and you're going to take this way, whether you like it or not. No, that's not how evangelism was supposed to be. That's not how evangelism is. And that's how you're going to turn a lot of churches off, is by telling them you have a better way. You're going to do it our way because that's the way we know works. Well, that's trying to reinvent the wheel. What we want to do is say, hey, the wheel has already been invented. Let's just make it better. Let's go and make it better. I use the analogy, for good or bad. Elon Musk saw a need in the market of cars, saying, hey, we need to make electric vehicles better. How can we do that? And here comes Tesla. Well, here's what my my thought is. This is what we have been told of how evangelism is to be. Go into the world, teach the gospel to every creature, and baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to observe all the things that we've been commanded by Christ. And that's the mission. So now, how do we expand that mission? How do we expound on that mission to a 21st century audience? Well, here's the way we do it. We use digital media. We use things that people already have at their disposal. So it is not reinventing the wheel. It is just using the tools and the thoughts that we already have to, as our mission verse is 2 Corinthians 5:20 says, therefore we are ambassadors of Christ. Well, we're supposed to be all ambassadors. When people donate to Herald of Truth, they're not donating for my salary. They're donating for all of us at everywhere to be ambassadors, so that we can help spread and share the story of Jesus, and being able to reconcile ourselves to God. And at the end of the day, it's not about what Will Hester says. It's not about what Herald of Truth says. It's about what Jesus tells us and about what God tells us. And we're told to share the gospel. And that is what we're supposed to do. And so our focus at Herald of Truth is just equipping, encouraging, and just giving the church that that tool for them to go out and tell people, and go out and be the hands and feet of Jesus, and engaging in evangelism. So that's a basic rundown of what we're doing. I have a couple of other things we're going to talk about here in just a minute, but that's the basic thing. Batzel Bear Baxter started. We started under Batzel Bear Baxter in 52. We've had many different people come through, being the director and the president, and now Greg Swindle is our president. And because of his leadership, we are able to do some of the things we're going to be talking about tonight.
Yeah, that since 52, that's being around for quite a bit. But
Yeah, 71 years.
Long before my time. But
yeah, long before my time too.
But it's true, that there is, spreading the gospel is something that is a need. It's something that we have to do, as Christians. And there's no real, magic bullet in order to solve every evangelistic problem. But there is ways in which we can, improve, in ways which we can, adopt, and in ways which we can, make more progress than just, throwing things to the wind. And so it's good, always good to take an analysis, to take I might say a survey of how you're what you're doing as far as the evangelistic field goes, and then take steps in order to improve it, in order to help it based on what the congregation situation is in and what they can do with what they're needing. And so it's like I said, it's good to be equipped with what you need.
Well, if you notice how Paul handled it, he did not say, okay, what works in Rome is going to work in Corinth. What works in Corinth is going to work in Philippi. What works in Philippi is going to work in Ephesus. He didn't say that. He didn't use a one-size-fits-all approach to the spreading of the story of Jesus. He said, okay, Corinth, this is what you need. Rome, this is what you need. Every single church, every single community is different. This is not a shot across the bow to any group that deals in evangelism or evangelistic efforts. And so I have to preface that. But for anyone to give a one-size-fits-all approach to evangelism, that is a very big misnomer, because far too often we get stuck in one way of doing things. And what may work at Portia is not going to work at Osceola. What works at Osceola may not work in Louisville, Kentucky. What works in Louisville, Kentucky is not going to work. And you see the spiraling effect if we try to take the same method and methodology. I'm not saying that it can't work, but you're going to be fighting an uphill battle in some cases, because some churches are not going to do something that is so foreign to what they've done.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've got to be very careful about that. And that's one good thing that I have noticed being at Herald of Truth is we do not do a one-size-fits-all approach. Ours is based in what does the congregation need? Does the congregation need commercials that we offer? We have 11. We have 12. 9 in Spanish, 3, 9 in English, 3 in Spanish, if I get it right. And do they need a geofencing with a couple of commercials and sponsors? Do they need some book material? Do they need lessons? Will they need some kind of, hey, we need to come in and do an intensive on evangelism because we haven't done any true evangelism in several years. We've forgotten how to do it. Do they need that? Do they need just someone to come in and encourage them ever so often? What does the church need? We can't just come in and say, hey, what I have is the magic formula that is going to solve your evangelistic problems. Because I don't. I'm just one guy coming in and saying, hey, here's a potential thing you can do, or here's another potential thing you can do. All we can do is just offer it. You have to use it. And you have to actually be the hands and feet. We can only provide the tools. It's just like Advanced Auto Parts or any other place that has tools. They provide the tools, but who has to do the work? Me.
Mm-hmm.
That screwdriver that uh, that any of these different places, Home Depot, Lowe's, whatever, that screwdriver that they sell is not going to turn itself. I've got to turn the screwdriver to get that screw to go into the wood, into the drywall or whatever. So that's the point. Is Herald of Truth can only offer a few things, but it takes the church to actually use them and
Mm-hmm.
use them correctly. So I think that's really the really big thing that we have to be very aware of, because Paul made it very clear about that as well, is that he was not using a one-size-fits-all approach to evangelism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like you said, it's that fact of, equipping, giving someone, a tool to use, for right, and there is, typically there's not, sometimes there's not really a substitute, for, a personal conversation, between, people, and like people who know others and who have, been able to tell them, that good message. But I know societally, speaking, oftentimes, talking about religion and talking about, God is something that is discouraged. It's not something you're supposed to do unless you know someone, really well. But maybe in your experience, what has been one of the at least say one of the biggest obstacles to evangelism for Christians and for most churches, today? I know we know there's sometimes certain things sometimes pop up more than others, but in your experience, what is maybe one of the more prominent obstacles to evangelism that you've seen?
I will say that probably the most prominent is the fact that they will be stuck in where they were 30 years ago. Well, 30 years ago, we were at 200, 300 members. Okay. Where were you 3 years ago? Well, 30 years ago, where were you 3 years ago? What was going on 3 years ago? Well, COVID. What happened right after that? Did you gain members? Did you become complacent because we all came back? And I can almost guarantee you that a lot of churches were complacent because they thought that, okay, well, everybody's just going to come back. Well, we had become complacent in the year that we weren't able to go in person. And so that's the problem, is complacency. We're stuck 30 years ago. And I have been very vocal, and to the detriment of some friendships and to the detriment of some respect among some of my peers, I have said this, that the churches of Christ have been behind the times for far too long. Every time we turn around, the denominational world, the secular world are all passing us by, using the tools that we should be using. And they're using them better than we could ever use them, because they realized that they needed to change. I am not saying go the way of the progressives. But what I am saying is we have to update ourselves. We cannot think that what worked 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago is going to work in 2024. It's just a lie we tell ourselves, because this is a little bit of a soapbox for me, so just bear with me for a second. Far too often, we get so stuck thinking that 60 years ago this worked, so in 2024 it's going to work, because guess what? They're going to have to listen. Well, guess what? They all have, well, I have a green screen so you can't see it. They have an iPad. They have a computer. They have all these different tools. They can shut their ears off and not listen to a single thing you say. What worked 60 years ago was door knocking. Not everybody wants people knocking at their door and saying, hey, here's this piece of paper that is going to be easily thrown away. Come to our gospel meeting. I can tell you, I'm 33. I'm handed a piece of paper. You know where it's going to go? File 13.
Yeah.
That's where it's going to go, because I don't read on paper a lot. Now, granted, my wife gets mad at me because most of my lists still are written on paper. So I kind of, it's a two-edged sword with that for me.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, though, when I look at it, what are they going to look at? Are they going to look at a piece of paper, or are they going to look more? Is it going to be possible that they're going to look at an ad on their Facebook page more than they would if they were handed a sheet of paper? And so, preachers were the master of segues. So here's what Herald of Truth does. We use a simple tool called geofencing. Now, for those who don't know what geofencing is, think of it this way. If you go to the sporting goods store, you're going to buy that pickleball set that you have wanted, and you want to get that pickleball set, if you know what pickleball is, or a golf set, whatever. When you come home and you pull your phone out and you go over to Facebook, guess what kind of ads you're going to see on your phone? You're going to see golf, pickleball, sporting goods ads, because the sporting goods manufacturers circle off that aisle or that sporting goods store. Now, they cannot know who goes into that store as far as names or whatever, because that goes against FCC guidelines. But what they can do is get the digital data. Take that digital data and send ads to that digital data that is targeted for the specific purpose. So they're selling a product through digital means. Herald of Truth, what we offer is, instead of selling a product, we share the story. So if a church is having a trunk or treat, a church is having a gospel meeting, the church will tell us, we want this circled off. This, for, let's say, trunk or treat. We can circle off the parking lot of a particular school or schools. When a car passes through that geofence, that digital data comes in. It's just a little embedded code on your phone. So we can't know who, we can't give names, addresses, or anything like that. We can't do that. What we can do, though, is this is how many people have gone through. So what we do is we do that 1 week before the event. Then on the day of the event, we circle the parking lot of the church building and the church building itself. And then we compile the digital data. We can give percentages of how many people who saw the ad 1 week prior also came in. then we will go and do targeted ads on Facebook for the church that will be geared towards getting people to come in to the doors. That's what modern evangelism looks like. Now, that is a foreign concept to the church.
Yeah.
However, that is modern day door knocking, because you're door knocking on their phone. You're door knocking where they are. You're door knocking where people are going to be. And that's the thing, is door knocking worked because people were at home more often. Not everyone's at home when you decide to go do a door knocking campaign. A lot of people are at work. Husband's on swing shift. Wife is out with her girlfriends or is taking her kids on a little trip over to the grocery store or whatever. Well, guess what? You're not going to get anybody at home. Then what happens? You leave that piece of paper in the door. There's no personal connection. All they see is a piece of paper, and it goes to file 13 because no one showed them. But if they're shown something that they already have in their hands, they see an ad saying, oh, there's a trunk or treat at a church. Well, we trust a church more than we trust going over to the city park in the middle of downtown at night. We'd rather go to a church. Well, we're going to go to that church for trunk or treat. Well, guess what? Now you have a contact. You have a point of contact. And those points of contacts become individuals. Those individuals become Bible study students. Those Bible study students become Christians, and those Christians become disciples. Because we put an emphasis, or should be putting an emphasis, on sharing the story of Jesus through a modern approach. And that's the point. That is the point. And that's the reason why Herald of Truth, we're trying to show the church that it's so much easier than we try to make it out to be.
Yeah. It's when the pandemic hit, that was an interesting thing to watch, because the kind of the digital race that took place as soon as the lockdowns hit. Everybody had to convert to using some form of digital media, and some were ready for it and kind of hit the ground running, and others had to build up almost a whole new system. But today, people consume information in a different manner today. And like you said, at least I know personally, a lot of the information I take in is from online, or is from from my phone. And so it's we do have to be aware of like I said, the way that people consume information, and that is certainly maybe a contrast maybe to like I said, to years ago. But one thing is for sure is we have to get to get that message out there. And I've always been a proponent of that. I know that's what this show actually started during the lockdown, when we couldn't meet, but I decided to keep it going even after we started meeting. And so it's I think it's definitely something good, like you said, good to have. But
that's the thing, is a lot of preachers got into podcasting because of the lockdown. We had to go, and we were holed up in our office, or we were holed up in our home. And so what do? Well, we have to be doing a midweek Bible study anyway, or we have to be preparing lessons anyway. So why not just put them out online for everybody to listen to? And some guys kept with it. Some guys didn't. I was on and off right after the pandemic stopped. I was on and off with the podcast I had started, and then we started another one with Sam Walker last year, and that's been on and off since. But we're going to try to start it back up, hopefully. But we all had to adjust to a different world, a different way of looking at things. And, that's it, elderships had to change their approach on how they handled certain situations, how they resolved certain things. Their budgets had to be changed. For at one point, they were allocating funds for door knocking. They were allocating funds for all these different things, and they had to scale that back. Well, guess what? Evangelism took a hit because they couldn't do certain things. They still, in some areas, can't do certain things. So what do? Well, we have to go and figure out how to share the story of Jesus without restriction. Well, we can do that online just as well as we can in other avenues, in person or whatever. We can use an online space for that. We can also teach the church how to evangelize and evangelize through an online space. And so that's the thing we have to be very aware of, is it's not rocket science. And I know I go back to that. Mm-hmm. I keep going back to that. But it's not rocket science to go and share the story of Jesus through a means that everybody already uses.
Yeah, and that's, like I said, that's a need that we have. It's something that we have to do, and we have to be someone who is does whatever we can, that uses the resources that we have to the best of our ability. But I forgot to shout this out earlier, but we got Ted Knight here. He was with us, and he's another great preacher.
Yes,
you'd love to hear. But it is something that it's always fascinating to talk about evangelism and talk about the need for it. And I do want to highlight one of the goals is to bring people in.
Yes.
It's not to make a substitute for meeting together with your brothers and sisters in Christ, and then worshiping, praying, singing, encouraging one another, and doing all those things we do for worship. We're not looking to substitute that through distance, through like digital means or so. But as far as putting the word out there and becoming someone who lets people know and just communicates that fact, because communication can be very difficult. It can be something that can either to get attention, or to be just to communicate the right image, because there's a lot of misconceptions out there about what the church is and who the church is and what we're about. And because people have never been told, what what we're all about, what we're truly all about, and they've just heard from other sources and maybe other things about what we do. But it's always we want to bring people in. But what else have you got going on over there at the Herald of Truth?
One of the coolest things, at least one of the coolest things I think is cool. And it's not because I'm the executive producer of it, but it's because we at Herald of Truth used to be in radio. There are some who probably still remember the years where Basil Bear Baxter was on the radio and on television. It was during the time where you had Ira North on the Amazing Grace Bible class, and he was that southern drawl of the Amazing Grace Bible hour. and he was live from the Madison Church of Christ in Madison, Tennessee. And you had him, and then you had Brother Batzel Barrett Baxter from
Mhm.
Abilene, Texas, on the campus of Highland Church of Christ. And so you had those two major voices on media, and everybody knew who Batzel Barrett Baxter was. Everybody knew who Ira North was. There are people to this day that say Ira North was my preacher growing up, because whenever we would get ready to go to church, my parents would put on the Amazing Grace Bible class, or they would put on the Herald of Truth television program with Batzel Barrett Baxter, and they remember those shows. So there was a time where those shows went away. They were replaced by different things. You had one of the big things that everybody still to this day sees is the International Gospel Hour with Jeff Archie and In Search of the Lord's Way with Phil Sanders. Everybody knows those. What we are doing at Herald of Truth, and it's the vision of Greg Swindle, and it was under the oversight for a time up until our executive vice president stepped down to take another job. But Joey Roberts was overseeing it at one time, and then Chase Turner is our director of Truth Digital Media Radio, and I'm the executive producer, and Elijah Bell, who is over at Holly Hill in Frankfort, Kentucky. He is our engineer, basically our content engineer. And think of it like iHeartRadio. It's going when we are able to get this set up on right now, it's just the radio station online. But when we are able to get it set up like this, you'll be able to go in and go on the different content creators that we have their stuff for, and you can listen on demand. It's going to be basically a podcast channel for the Churches of Christ, where you can go in and listen to the podcast that you want. Go in and listen to some old Batzel Barrett Baxter sermons. If there was a sermon you liked from back in the day, and you want to go in and listen to Brother Batzel Barrett Baxter's archived sermon, you can do that. If you want to go and listen to, let's say, Trey and Lee Morgan. Trey and Lee are two of the most knowledgeable people on marriage and building stronger marriages. They have the Stronger Marriage workshops that they go around the country doing. If you want to learn a little bit more about how to have a stronger marriage, you can go and listen to their stuff. It is free to anyone who wants to go on the website and listen. If you want to donate, you can. We encourage you to, because that's how we keep it going, is through the donations of individuals, through the donations of churches. But the thing is, you're going to hear Wes McAdams, you're going to hear Chris McCurley, you're going to hear Trey and Lee Morgan, you're going to hear Ben and Travis with their Helping Healing Humor podcast. You're going to listen. You're going to hear at some point down the line, you're going to hear Christian Chronicle giving daily brotherhood news or weekly brotherhood news. You're going to hear BibleTalk.tv out of Oklahoma with Mike Mazzalongo. You're going to hear some of his sermons. You're going to hear some of that stuff. You're going to hear the Road Talk podcast with Jacob Hawk out of Preston Crest Church of Christ in Plano, Texas. You're going to hear all of these different things, and you're going to hear a cappella music. Wouldn't it be nice if you could go onto a station and listen to a cappella Christian music and not have to worry about having to skip through ads that are geared towards worldly stuff, or skip through a song that has instrumental music that you really don't want to listen to today. Well, guess what? There is something like that, and it's called Truth Digital Media Radio. And luckily enough, I have been fortunate the last 5 months to be able to work on this with the guys. And we're able to officially say that yesterday we had the official launch of truthdigitalmedia.org, which is our website that we have that you can go and listen to it. And I think you said you had it pulled up. If you want to pull it up for folks, so they can see it. So when you go on the website, that's what you're going to see. Is it's going to show Herald of Truth's 24/7 online worldwide radio station. So if you go over to the program schedule before you play it, Seth, you want to go over to the program schedule. We'll go through that for just a second. So on here, you're going to find Foundational Voice from Herald of Truth founder Batsell Bear Baxter. So at 8 o'clock in the morning, all these times are Central Standard Time, as the schedule says. At 8 o'clock in the morning, you're going to get to hear Batsell Bear Baxter speak again. At 9 o'clock, once all of the different podcasts are done, music starts. So you're going to hear a cappella music in between all of the different podcasts and different things like that. Then at 10 o'clock, for those preachers who need some encouragement while they're writing their sermons, or for those Christians who are sitting in their cubicle needing to hear something that is not the same podcast from hither and yon. It's Chris McCurley's Dear Church podcast. Dear Church, let's talk about mental health. Dear Church, let's talk about this. Excuse me. Then when you're eating lunch, you can listen to a mental health podcast by Ben and Travis. And what they do is they do it through some humor. They have some humor, but Ben is a licensed counselor. And Travis, he has experience because he's been through adoption. He's been with his wife. He's been through cancer himself, and so he's seen the ugly side of stuff. Then at 1 o'clock, Wes McAdams with his podcast, Radically Christian Bible Study. Then at 3 o'clock, they're going to hear various speakers. There's going to be, hopefully going forward, there's going to be multiple people besides Mike Mazzalongo's sermons. But right now, you get to hear Mike Mazzalongo out of Oklahoma with BibleTalk.tv. 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock are our leadership hours, where you get to hear Jacob Hawk and Bob Turner on different things pertaining to the church. And then we have affectionately dubbed 6 and 7 as couples night, which is you get to hear Trey Morgan and Lee Morgan on marriages. So when you're putting your kids to bed, you can put Trey and Lee Morgan on in the background, and you can hear them talking about marriage in some capacity. Or if your kids have already gone to bed, like my kids, since I'm on Eastern time, they go to bed 7:30. Well, guess what? At 8 o'clock my time, I get to hear Trey and Lee Morgan talking about having a stronger marriage. It's that mindset of knowing that I am giving. We are giving people an opportunity to hear stuff that is spiritually uplifting and is going to enrich their lives. And not, I hate to say this, but a lot of what you hear in the secular world makes us brain dead zombies when it comes to our spiritual walk. And people might be saying, well, Will, that sounds a little crass and that sounds like you're being a little judgmental. Well, I am. Because I can tell you that if you look at the state of affairs in the secular world today, we become zombies. Because guess what? We're just scrolling through, finding that next fix. But if we have something that is spiritually enriching and it's actually teaching us something, why don't we use that instead of saying, well, I might use it, I might not? Well, that's the point. And so, yeah, that's a program schedule that we're using right now. There will be a few different things. I will tell you before we do anything else that we have a cappella company, United Voice Worship, West Virginia Christian Youth Camp, Freed Hardeman's Music Department, Long Island Church of Christ, that have all given us rights to using recordings for using their recordings of songs, of public domain music, to play on our radio station. So you're going to hear different singers singing songs that they've either written themselves or music that is well known to you, or maybe songs that you haven't heard in 50, 60, 70 years. But it's stuff that is going to help you, enrich you, and make you love what you do in the Lord. So that's really the big thing. And I know we think we could play a little bit of it just to give everybody a taste, and then I'm certain you'll have questions or thoughts or comments on this.
Yeah, let's see here.
Let's see.
Yeah, that's a little same thing.
And they praise God, and they praise God. I sing to the people in.
So that's actually a cappella singing right there, and so it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and this is only a day old, right?
Yeah, it's only a day old. We've actually been live, quote unquote. We've been live for probably, I guess, a week and a half officially, as far as this program schedule that we're using now. But as the official launch is concerned, it was January 31st of this year, because we wanted to work out all the kinks, work out all the bugs before we told everybody, hey, go flood the site, because if we flooded the site and something was wrong with it, then that would not have been a good thing. So
yeah,
we didn't want to do that and mess something up. So
yeah, well, this is really exciting, and I'm glad I'll certainly be someone who checks this out and make sure that we can. I think you're having like a place where you can have like trusted, podcasts and stuff that you can go to, and even to recommend to others as well. You always hear somebody saying, "Well, do you recommend any podcast?" You can redirect them to a place that doesn't just have one, but has a number of them that you can take a look at. But
absolutely. And also, let me and I guess I'm just doing a shameless plug at this point, but if you like what you're listening to, if you liked what you heard, and if you go over there and you like what you're hearing, let me encourage you to go to our website, heraldoftruth.org /TDM. That will take you to the donation page for Truth Digital itself. That way you don't have to go onto a regular donation page and then try to click and scroll through which one you want to give to. If you like what you listen to on Truth Digital Media, let me encourage you to go to heraldoftruth.org /TDM, and there you will find the information as to why we started this, why this is such a big deal. You can choose to do a one-time donation, or you can choose to make it a recurring donation. And if you have any questions or concerns considering that, then you can contact me. I'm free to answer any questions that there might be on that.
Mm-hmm.
I will give you a couple of quick statistics, Seth, if you are interested in this. We've been listened to in 3 countries in the last 2 days. The 3 countries are the U.S., obviously, Zambia, and China. So it's interesting that we've been heard in those places, and we've been heard by 118 different unique listeners. Now, some people might say, well, that's kind of low, isn't it? Well, you have to remember that this is a news station. We are trying to work out some kinks, and 118 for a 1-day launch, 2-day launch is actually a pretty good number. It's not an amazing number, like it's out of the ballpark, but it is a good number. And so I highly encourage you to just go over to the website, peruse through there. It's not fully updated yet because we don't have every content creator on there listed, which we should by the end of next week. We should have everybody listed on there, hopefully. But with that being said, this is again another tool to give the church. It's another tool to say, okay, on Sunday mornings, before we go in, before worship starts, instead of paying a royalty fee to play music in the auditorium before worship starts, they can turn on TDM. And we are hoping that at some point we'll be able to start doing just 4 or 5 hours on Sunday mornings of just a cappella music and prayers. And so on Sunday mornings for a church, if they want to turn TDM on as people are walking into the building, just to have some background noise for people to be able to just get in the right mindset by listening to some a cappella music, by listening to some prayers, then they can. And it's free. It's free for them to do that. They just have to go to the website and press play. That's all they have to do. If they want to donate, that's great too. But at the same time, if a church just wants to do that, just go over there. If we aren't playing that and we're playing Batzel Bear Baxter, that's a good thing too, because guess what? You're going to hear a good sermon as you're walking into the church building. And then people are going to want to be like, oh, where did I hear that? Oh, I heard it at church. Well, what is it called? Truth Digital Media. Let me go and listen to it. And it encourages them to get into that mindset. We have to rewire our brains into thinking that evangelism is something I can do, not something that the preacher is going to do or the elders are going to do. It's something that I can do. And if we rewire that to doing it, then I think we can help the church, and we can expand the borders of the kingdom.
Yeah, it's a personal responsibility that we all have. And no matter who you are or what your situation is, or what obstacles you may find in your path, you can find a way to serve God. You can find a way to contribute to evangelism. And that's
Absolutely.
one of the beautiful things about the gospel. But Will, we're running up on our time here, and so we were about over. But we really appreciate you being here. Is there anything else you'd like to add on before we kind of sign off here?
All I want to say is just, guys, thank you again for letting me be on here, Seth. But you can do this. Evangelism isn't rocket science. We need to stop making it rocket science. We need to stop making it out to where it's this tough thing that's unattainable. Evangelism, we're all ambassadors of Christ to be reconciled to God. Paul said that in 2 Corinthians. I believe it. We believe it at Herald of Truth. I know you believe it, Seth. That's the thing, is we are all to be ambassadors of Christ. We're all supposed to be sharing the story of Jesus. And if we're going to expand the borders of the kingdom, we've got to use the tools that will help us and not hinder us. So that's really, I'm certain people are thinking, well, he's going to say donate to Herald of Truth, which you can, heraldoftruth.org /donate, and you can go over there. But if you want to just know what evangelism is being willing to step out of your comfort zone to share the story of Jesus. That's what evangelism is. It's not hard. Stop making it hard and just go and do it. And if you need help, ask for it. But don't think that I can't do it because I don't know how. You know how by just saying, I want to talk to you about Jesus. And then just go from there.
Yeah, well, sometimes all it takes is the little conversation, a starter, something to get them thinking. And then that can lead to more and more, and eventually they have a curiosity or an interest enough to honestly and genuinely check it out. And then their life can be changed from that. But we certainly wish you all the best. We wish, the launch of this new online radio venture. Hope that goes well, and you get people from all over the world and all over the country in order to listen to that. And we certainly appreciate your efforts and what you do for evangelism.
Well, thank you.
But we will, and we'll certainly keep us updated on what you guys are doing, and we'll catch you next time.
All righty. Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Certainly appreciate you guys joining us for this episode of the Midweek Bible Study. We'll be back here next Thursday night for another episode at 7 o'clock Central Standard Time, as always. Until then, hope you can go out and be the light of the world and glorify God in everything that you do. Catch you next time.